Hello and welcome to Exchange 2010. My name is Shelley Chase and I am an architect for the OpenEdge product. I have been with Progress for 15 years and my projects have included web services, Open Client for .NET and Java, OOABL, and GUI for .NET. In OpenEdge, we have been talking about the 7 keys to success for building modern business applications. UI flexibility is one of those 7 keys. UI flexibility means that you can use many different UI technologies with an OpenEdge business application. This allows you to build a UI that meets the needs of your customer. In today's session, I would like to talk about the user interface choices you have within OpenEdge and give you information on how to pick the right technology or technologies to use. Joining me today are Mike Fechner and Frank Hilhorst. Both of them are speakers at Exchange Online 2010. Mike and Frank, welcome. Can each of you spend a minute or two introducing yourselves?
Well, thank you, Shelley. My name is Mike Fechner. I'm working for my own company, Consultingwerk Limited. We are based in Germany. We're working with Progress application partners all over the world and helping them adopting the latest OpenEdge technology, mostly in the context of existing OpenEdge developments. Recently, we've specialized in the OpenEdge GUI for .NET. Shelley, actually, you and your team have done a very great job in combining, well, the capability of the OpenEdge client with the power on the user interface of the .NET framework.
Hello, thanks Shelley for having me. My name is Frank Hilhorst and I'm the president of Progressive Consulting. At Progressive Consulting, we also specialize in helping Progress customers extend the capabilities of their application through the use of technologies that are not native to Progress. And that takes 2 forms. We help customers migrate to non-native UI platforms. We define how the 2 technical teams can work together so that they both build components that fit together. We also provide services on the back end where we help Progress customers extend these capabilities at the system level. Sometimes people need system level programming. We provide a DLL or an X control that allows them to integrate those specific capabilities into Progress.
Mike, Frank, welcome. Thank you. OpenEdge works with many user interface technologies. A great user interface for your application gives you an edge over your competition and allows you to provide the best productivity to your users. There are a large number of UI technologies in the market today, and more are coming out all the time. With all the choices available, how are you supposed to know which one to use? In OpenEdge, we see 3 types of applications. Desktop applications run on the local machine. They can provide the richest user experience by integrating with other applications and resources on the desktop. Within OpenEdge, you can build a desktop application using GUI for .NET, Classic GUI, or Character. GUI for .NET is new in 10.2a. You can use it to build a modern, state-of-the-art UI directly in OpenEdge Architect and ABL. It is based on Microsoft Windows Forms technology. With GUI and GUI for .NET, you can use OpenEdge Web Client to automate the deployment and update of your application over the web. You can also build a .NET or Java client outside of OpenEdge and use the OpenEdge Open Client product to access data and logic on the OpenEdge app server. ProxyGen generates client-specific proxies for deployment with your .NET or Java clients. The next type of application is built using a browser plugin. Plugins provide a rich user experience on the web. 2 popular plugins are Microsoft Silverlight and Adobe Flex. Browser plugins extend the native capabilities of the browser so you can build a richer UI for the web. A plugin application can use services such as OpenEdge Web Services to access your app server or proxies generated by Open Client for .NET or Java. The third type of application is a native browser app. These are UIs made up of static and dynamic web content. If you add in Ajax, you can provide a rich Web 2.0 style user interface that asynchronously accesses data without requiring a full page refresh. These applications can access data using WebSpeed or App Server. Starting with 10.2b, Pro datasets and temp tables can be serialized to JSON, which is a common protocol for communication in Ajax. You can also use other web page technologies, such as Java Servlet Pages or ASP.NET from Microsoft. I have been asked why OpenEdge supports so many UIs. The answer is that we believe that flexible and open support for industry-leading UI technologies is the right strategy for our customers. There is no one-size-fits-all UI solution, and we plan to continue to expand our support as new UI technologies become available. Mike, I know that you tend to work with desktop applications. Do you agree with the trend that user interfaces are moving towards the web? And can you share some of the projects that you've worked on with us?
Sure. Well, rich internet applications certainly is a trend that many application partners I've been working with have interest in. But at the same time, there's a huge demand in desktop interfaces. Many partners see the benefit in rich internet applications and ease of deployments, while the benefit of a desktop application is the tight integration into the desktop, allowing various ways to present data and integration with desktop resources and third-party applications. For this observation, it actually doesn't matter if you're already deploying in the cloud or if you're using a traditional deployment model. I see a huge interest in desktop applications which are actually having their backend deployed in the cloud as well. What I definitely see is a huge trend and awareness that any UI choice made today won't last for as long as 10 years ago. So there's a huge awareness that an architecture you're spending resources on today should allow an independentness of the UI technology so that you can easily really replace the UI later. The types of projects that we are working on typically fall into two categories at the moment. One is using the OpenEdge GUI for .NET to improve the presentation layer of an existing OpenEdge application, leveraging all the integration features between the classic and the new user interface to really enhance the end user's productivity and the market chances of the application. The other projects fall into the category of developing a new user interface, a completely new user interface based on the GUI for .NET, where we typically follow the principles of the OpenEdge reference architecture and don't have any legacy we need to care about.
Great. Frank, you focus more on applications that run on the web. Do you think that this is the way of the future, and can you share some of your project experience?
Well, first of all, I think there are two things that can drive the choice of your UI technology. And one can be fashion, and I don't know, just like fashion, I don't know what the fashion of the future will be. But it can also be, and I want to tell a story about that, how a particular technology can solve a very specific problem. And once I worked on an application where, out of the blue, there was a very severe business challenge. And in this case, this was in the early days of Ajax. Ajax was the technology that solved a specific problem and that turned that challenge into a revenue opportunity. And what happened in this case is we were installing a centralized billing application at Wyndham Hotels. So the way this application worked is we were collecting data remotely from about 120 hotels. We were processing it and posting it back to the hotel because they had decentralized property management systems. So all in all, this was 120 hotels. We were running about 3 to 4 interfaces per hotel. So in all, this was about 400 interfaces. Now what happened about 2 weeks after installing this application, we had a programmer that had to make a change to solve a problem with one of the hotels. And what ended up happening is that he made it work for one of those hotels and it failed for the other 119 hotels. We found this out about a day later, and by that time, Wyndham had lost $80,000. Now, as you imagine, I've had better days. And Wyndham reacted. They were aware now we have a single point of failure. So they demanded that we provide a way that they could monitor these interfaces continuously. And the way we found to do that, we turned this around in about a week, was to have these interfaces collect statistical data about how they performed, and then we created a web page. And this web page had all of the hotels on there, all of the interfaces, and for each interface there was either a green light, the interface was fine, an orange light, it was questionable, a red light, there was a problem. If there was a red light, you could click on that red light, and then you saw all kinds of statistical data about that interface. And that seemed to solve the problem, but it didn't. Because now somebody at Wyndham had the unfortunate task of monitoring this thing. And he had to look at all 120, so he went down to hotel 120 and the page refreshed. So he calls me in the middle of the night, I can't monitor these interfaces. So obviously, what was the solution for that? Ajax. We need to be able to refresh all of these lights without refreshing the page.
Very interesting. Another important aspect of choosing a user interface technology is to understand the users of your application. At OpenEdge, we see 3 distinct user interface personas. The first is the infrequent user. This is the person that is probably not very technical and uses the web occasionally for simple tasks. This user is probably using a shared computer and they need access from the application from anywhere, and they cannot download any software since it's not their own machine. The user is most likely to use applications to buy a product, track shipping, or look up some information on the web. The second type of user is the occasional user. This person is comfortable using a computer and they have a set of apps that they typically use. They most likely own a computer, so limited installations are acceptable as long as they're fast and automatic. A typical application might be an online banking service where you log in, check your account balances, and maybe pay a few bills. In this application, web browser behavior like bookmarks, forward and back buttons are not that important since they are working within the bank's application exclusively. The third type of user is the power user. This is the person that is working on a dedicated computer all day, every day. They're experts in using the application to get their job done. Whether the application is running in a browser or on the desktop, it is not extremely relevant, as long as the application allows them to be productive. They often need to work both online and offline. This user might be trained on using the application or might use self-guided help. Mike and Frank, do these user personas match the users your client applications have? Do your customers tend to only focus on one type of user or multiple personas?
Well, my customers typically focus on the power user, on the user using the application the whole working day, logging in at 9, logging off at 5 in the afternoon or even later, working on their desktop PC in the office or on a mobile computer and laptop where the application is installed. These users typically are used to very tight desktop integration with other applications they're using. Think of features of Windows 7 like the jump list of the taskbar. That's actually a control of the application which is completely melded with a control of the desktop of your operating system. These users need to make effective use of the screen. The same application may be used by a user in an office at a system with 3 24-inch screens or on the road at a 13-inch laptop display. So you need flexibility to let the user decide how to work with this screen real estate. There are typically some fields in most applications where you need access for an infrequent user. Something like giving a procurement agent of a customer access to see some order status. Remote employees may need to track the work they've done, track the time they've taken, things like this. And typically it's acceptable to write them a specialized user interface so that the UI choice for these infrequent users does not affect the UI choice for the power users, which typically are the majority of users, or in hours the application is used over a period of time. Probably these power users use the application more than the infrequent users in summary.